Laughter, handshakes, friendly eyes. You think these are my people. But what if I told you that half the people in that room don't actually like you? They like what you represent. They like your energy, your usefulness, or maybe just your company because it fills a void in theirs. And the second those things change, they disappear. Let that sink in. The harsh truth is this: no one is your friend until they prove it, when there's nothing left for them to gain. Most people don't fail because they're not talented, disciplined, or smart. They fail because they trust too quickly, love too easily, and assume loyalty where none exists. I know that sounds cold, but it's not bitterness, it's awareness. It's understanding that human nature is driven by self-preservation. Everyone, even you, even me, acts from a place of self-interest. It's not evil, it's survival. But when you forget that, you hand over your power. You start to confuse attention for affection. You mistake flattery for loyalty. And you give the most dangerous people in your life, the ones who wear the nicest smiles, front row access to your emotions. So ask yourself, how many times have you been blindsided because you assumed someone had your back? How many times have you shared something personal only to have it used against you later? How many times have you believed in someone who was only around because it was convenient for them? That's not the world being cruel, that's the world being honest, and you just weren't paying attention. If you want to survive in it, if you want to thrive in it, you have to learn the art of being friendly without being fooled. You have to understand that no one is your friend doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you move wisely. It means you observe. You listen. You don't give people more access than they've earned. Because the moment you start living with that awareness, you stop being a target and start becoming a force. We grow up being told that friendship is one of life's greatest treasures. Stories, movies, and childhood lessons all paint the same picture. That having friends means you are loved, supported, and protected. But then life happens, and reality starts teaching a very different lesson. The truth is, friendship is not something to be assumed. It is not a gift freely given. It is a privilege that must be proven. Most people mistake familiarity for friendship. You work with someone, laugh with them, share stories, exchange messages late at night, and you begin to think there's a bond. But proximity is not loyalty. Just because someone stands next to you does not mean they stand for you. Friendship, real friendship, is not measured by smiles or small talk. It's measured by consistency. When things stop being convenient, the illusion of friendship is dangerous because it tricks you into thinking you are safe when you are not. There are people who will celebrate you when you're winning, but vanish when you're struggling. People who will call you brother, sister, best friend, while secretly comparing, competing, or even resenting you. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just human nature. People are drawn to what benefits them. They gravitate toward those who make them feel good, look good, or help them climb. And the moment that stops, their interest fades. What hurts is not that they leave, but that you believed they never would. The problem is that we want to see the best in others. We want to believe that when we call someone a friend, the word means the same thing to them that it means to us. But people have different definitions. For some, friendship is mutual support. For others, it's emotional convenience. For some, it's about loyalty. For others, it's about leverage. The illusion is thinking everyone plays by the same emotional rules you do. Trust is powerful, but it's also fragile. Once given too easily, it becomes a weapon that can be used against you. When you trust someone prematurely, you hand them the keys to your vulnerabilities. You tell them what hurts you, what motivates you, what scares you, and if that person's intentions are not pure, you've just armed your enemy. That's why so many people get blindsided. They assume that kindness equals loyalty, that shared experiences equal commitment. But the truth is, most people are loyal to their needs, not to you. Watch how people behave when you have nothing to offer them. That's when you see their true face. When you can no longer help them, when your value to them diminishes, when your light starts to dim. Pay attention to who still shows up. That's the moment when illusions shatter and reality steps in. True friendship doesn't disappear when you're at your lowest. It doesn't gossip when you're vulnerable. It doesn't compete when you succeed. It celebrates you genuinely and stands beside you quietly. But those friendships are rare. This is why emotional intelligence is essential. You need to observe, not just listen. People reveal themselves in small ways. How they speak about others. How they react to your good news. How they handle your silence. Someone who gossips to you will gossip about you. Someone who constantly needs something from you is not a friend. They're a collector. They collect your time, your energy, your attention, until you have nothing left to give. And when you finally say no, they vanish, leaving you wondering what went wrong. Nothing went wrong. You just saw the truth too late. The illusion of friendship also feeds off your need for belonging. Everyone wants to feel connected, understood, and loved. That desire makes you overlook red flags. You start justifying behavior that should never be excused. You convince yourself that they didn't mean it, or that it's just how they are. But loyalty without respect is manipulation. And any connection that drains you more than it nourishes you is not friendship, it's emotional debt. You owe it to yourself to stop giving people discounts on loyalty. Start observing patterns instead of promises. People will tell you they're your friend, but consistency will prove if they are. It's not the words that matter, it's the behavior when no one's watching. Do they defend you when you're not in the room? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they celebrate your success without jealousy? Or do they disappear the moment the spotlight shifts? Real friendship can survive distance, silence, even disagreement. Illusionary friendship survives only comfort. The moment it requires effort, it evaporates. So stop being shocked when people walk away. Start being strategic about who you let walk in. You don't need a large circle, you need a strong one. The smaller the circle, the fewer the leaks. Because trust, once broken, is like shattered glass. You can try to piece it back together, but it never looks the same. There's a difference between being paranoid and being prepared. Paranoia sees enemies everywhere. Preparation simply refuses to ignore reality. You don't need to distrust everyone, you just need to test them before you trust them. Give people small opportunities to prove their loyalty. Pay attention to how they handle your absence, not just your presence. See how they act when you say no, because anyone can love you when you're easy to love. But how they treat you when you're inconvenient, that's the truth. Never apologize for being cautious. Protecting your peace is not cynicism, it's wisdom. The most powerful people are not those who love less, but those who love wisely. They don't close their hearts, they guard them. They don't assume loyalty, they observe it. And once they find genuine people, they value them deeply. But they don't hand that value out like candy. They make others earn it. You owe yourself that level of discernment. Every time you let someone too close too soon, you give away a piece of your security. Every time you overshare, overgive, or overtrust, you're teaching others how to hurt you. Friendship, real friendship, is not about how much time you spend together or how long you've known each other. It's about the integrity behind every interaction. So as you move through life, remember this: be friendly, but don't be fooled. Be open, but not exposed. Don't assume trust, test it, because the world is full of people who will smile to your face and sabotage you in silence. And if you keep mistaking warmth for loyalty, you'll keep getting burned. Friendship is not an illusion when it's real, but finding the real requires seeing through the illusion first. Learn to stand alone without fear. So when someone stands beside you, you know it's by choice, not necessity. That's when you stop living in illusion and start living in truth. Every single person you meet is motivated by something, a need, a goal, a fear, or a desire. That doesn't make them bad. It makes them human. But the mistake most people make is assuming that others operate with the same intentions, the same values, the same emotional compass they do. They don't. Understanding human nature isn't about becoming cynical, or distrusting everyone. It's about finally opening your eyes to the quiet truth that drives people's behavior. Everyone has an agenda. Some are honest about it. Most are not. The word agenda often sounds negative, but it's not inherently so. It simply means there's something a person wants: validation, control, money, attention, approval, love, safety, power. Every interaction is an exchange, and beneath every exchange is an agenda. When you walk into a room, people are already assessing what you bring to the table. They're measuring your confidence, your usefulness, your energy, your potential value to them. They might smile, shake your hand and say, "It's great to meet you." But internally they're scanning, can this person help me, threaten me, teach me, benefit me? That's not cold, that's the psychology of survival. The sooner you accept that, the more power you gain. Because once you stop taking things personally, you start seeing patterns. You start noticing how people align themselves with those who can advance their own goals. You stop being blindsided when someone turns on you, because you understood the motive before the action. People rarely betray you without reason. They betray you because their agenda changed. What once benefited them no longer does, and loyalty tied to convenience will always dissolve under pressure. Think about it. Every decision you've ever made was motivated by something that served you. You work to earn money, you socialize to connect, you seek love to feel safe, you chase dreams to fulfill a purpose. Everyone else is doing the same thing. Their methods just look different. The challenge is not to hate people for this, but to recognize the pattern early enough so you can navigate it wisely. When you understand someone's agenda, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. People reveal their motives in subtle ways: how they treat others who can't do anything for them, how they behave when you say no, how they act when you succeed. Someone who claps for you in public but criticizes you in private has an agenda of insecurity. Someone who always needs to be seen next to you when you're winning, but disappears when you're not, has an agenda of association. And someone who constantly asks for favors but never reciprocates has an agenda of extraction. The signs are always there. We just ignore them because we want to believe people mean well. When you understand that everyone has an agenda, you begin to protect your own energy differently. You stop oversharing. You stop volunteering emotional information that others can weaponize later. You start to listen more than you speak, because the more you talk, the more data you give away. Data that people can use to manipulate, influence, or control outcomes in their favor. The most emotionally intelligent people in the world are not loud. They're observant. They watch, they assess, they read the room before they engage. The danger of ignoring human agendas is that you give the wrong people influence over your life. You let others pull your strings because you don't see the invisible strings they're holding. Every manipulator, every narcissist, every opportunist thrives on one thing: your assumption that their intentions are pure. Once you start questioning motives, you become unpredictable to them. You become harder to control. That's why self-awareness is your greatest defense. The moment you understand what people want, you decide what role you play in their story, and if you even want to be in it at all. Think of your life as a chessboard. Every person you meet plays a piece. Some come to support, some to challenge, and some to remove you from the board. The only way to stay in the game is to understand their moves. Not everyone who smiles is an ally. Not everyone who disagrees is an enemy. Sometimes the people who challenge you the most are actually the most honest. They have no agenda but truth. And sometimes the ones who praise you the loudest are the most dangerous. They want proximity, not partnership. The human agenda isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious. People act out of fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing control. That fear can make them manipulative without even realizing it. They might sabotage you not because they hate you, but because your success reminds them of what they lack. The more self-aware you become, the more you recognize that everyone's behavior is rooted in something deeper: insecurity, pain, ego, or need. You stop judging and start analyzing. You stop being offended and start understanding. That's where real power lies, in comprehension, not confrontation. When you can look at someone and see beyond their words, when you can read the intention behind the smile, you gain emotional armor. You stop expecting fairness from people who are driven by fear. You stop expecting loyalty from people who are loyal only to themselves. And you stop expecting honesty from people who survive through illusion. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. So how do you protect yourself in a world where everyone has an agenda? You develop one of your own, a purpose-driven agenda. You decide what your priorities are, and you align your energy only with those who complement, not compromise, that mission. You create boundaries that filter out anyone who doesn't bring genuine value or respect. Because without boundaries, your compassion becomes currency, and people will spend it until you're emotionally bankrupt. You can still love people, you can still help people, but you do it consciously. You give with awareness, not obligation. You support without expecting reciprocation. You trust, but you verify. You no longer play blind in a world full of hidden motives. You move with grace, but you keep your eyes open. Here's the truth. Once you understand human nature, betrayal stops feeling like a shock. It becomes information. You no longer ask, why would they do that to me? Instead, you think, that's what their agenda was all along. That mindset doesn't make you colder, it makes you stronger. It lets you navigate relationships with precision, not pain.
Everyone you meet is walking around with a story, a wound, a goal, a hidden hunger. The difference between those who get hurt and those who rise is awareness. Awareness of motives, patterns, and emotional dynamics. When you learn to see people for who they are, not who you wish they were, you take your power back.
So remember, everyone has an agenda, but that doesn't have to scare you. Let it guide you. Let it sharpen your intuition. Because once you learn to see beneath the surface, no one can blindside you again. You'll stop being a pawn in other people's games and start being the player who sees the entire board. Emotional intelligence is the quiet strength that separates those who crumble from those who adapt, those who react from those who respond, those who fall apart from those who recalibrate and rise. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care. It's about mastering them, understanding your emotions so deeply that they no longer control you, no longer betray you, and no longer make you easy to manipulate. When you lack emotional intelligence, you become predictable. You're driven by anger, fear, jealousy, or validation. People see your triggers and learn how to use them against you. They can make you doubt yourself with a single comment. They can make you explode by pressing the right emotional button. They can control your energy without ever raising their voice. That's what emotional vulnerability without boundaries looks like. It's like walking into a battlefield with no armor on, hoping the world will play fair. But when you develop emotional intelligence, everything changes. You stop being reactive. You stop letting people dictate your emotional state. You start to observe before you respond. You listen, not just to words, but to tone, to body language, to intention. You learn to read what's not being said, because silence often reveals more truth than speech ever does. Emotional intelligence gives you clarity. It's the ability to see a situation for what it really is, not what you emotionally wish it to be. You have to understand something about emotions. They are not the enemy. They are messengers. They tell you where your wounds are, what your values are, and where you've given too much of yourself away. Anger shows up when you feel disrespected. Sadness appears when something valuable is lost. Jealousy reveals what you desire but haven't yet achieved. The problem isn't feeling those things. The problem is letting them run unchecked. Without control, emotions distort your perception, cloud your judgment, and make you vulnerable to manipulation. That's why so many people get played. Not because they're dumb or naive, but because they're emotionally unguarded. Someone flatters them and they mistake it for loyalty. Someone mirrors their pain and they mistake it for connection. Someone shows empathy and they assume it means safety. But empathy without consistency is manipulation in disguise. The emotionally intelligent person recognizes the difference. They don't fall for words. They wait for patterns. They don't get hooked by emotional chemistry. They watch for character. Emotional intelligence is like a radar system. It detects motives, tone shifts, and hidden emotions before they reach your core. It lets you walk into any room and instantly sense the energy, who's genuine, who's pretending, who's masking insecurity with charm. It's not magic, it's awareness. And once you learn to trust your awareness, you'll start protecting yourself in ways you never did before. People often misunderstand strength. They think it's about being unbreakable, loud, or intimidating. But true strength is calm. It's still, it's measured. The person who stays composed while others lose control is the one who holds the real power. Emotional intelligence gives you that composure. You don't argue to prove your point. You observe to understand theirs. You don't retaliate. You reposition. You learn to disengage from energy that doesn't serve you. Not because you're weak, but because you know your peace is too expensive to trade for noise. You'll notice something interesting when you start operating from emotional intelligence. You talk less and you see more. You stop rushing to explain yourself to people who have already decided how to misunderstand you. You stop taking things personally because you realize that most of what people project onto you has nothing to do with you. Their behavior is a reflection of their own fears, not a verdict on your worth. That realization is freedom. It's like stepping out of a psychological trap you didn't know you were in. Developing this kind of control takes practice. It means observing your own reactions. When something upsets you, don't rush to fix it. Study it. Ask yourself, why did that get to me? Every emotional reaction is data. It points to a belief, a fear, or an unresolved wound. The more you understand your own triggers, the less others can use them against you. Self-awareness is not optional. It's survival. You can't control the world, but you can control how you move through it. There will always be people who test your limits, provoke you, or try to undermine your peace. But you can't fight every battle. You can't respond to every insult. Sometimes silence is your best strategy. The moment you stop feeding emotional reactions to people who want attention, you starve their power. Not everything deserves your energy. You have to learn the discipline of emotional distance, choosing when to engage and when to detach. Emotional intelligence also means empathy with boundaries. You can understand where someone is coming from without allowing their chaos to enter your life. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. Empathy becomes dangerous when it turns into self-neglect. Just because you understand someone's pain doesn't mean you should accept their behavior. The emotionally intelligent person knows when compassion becomes a trap. Imagine walking through life with this awareness, being unshaken, no matter what people say, calm no matter how chaotic things get, kind but not gullible. That's what emotional intelligence gives you. Command over your inner world. And when you command your inner world, the outer world starts to bend around it. People can't control what they can't read. When you master your emotions, you become unpredictable in the best way. Steady, mysterious, untouchable. Some people will misinterpret your calm for coldness, your distance for arrogance, your silence for weakness. That's fine. You're not here to perform emotional accessibility for others. You're here to protect your energy and direct it toward things that actually matter. The right people will understand. The wrong ones will fall away. That's the beauty of emotional maturity. It filters your environment naturally. You stop chasing approval and start attracting alignment. Every moment you spend mastering your emotional reactions, you're building invisible armor. It doesn't make you hard, it makes you resilient. It doesn't make you detached, it makes you deliberate. You stop letting storms dictate your course. You start steering through them with intention. Emotional intelligence turns life from a battlefield into a chessboard. You stop reacting to every move, and you start making calculated ones. And that's the real goal, not to live without feeling, but to feel everything without letting it control you. To experience anger and still choose grace. To feel pain and still choose dignity. To sense betrayal and still move strategically. That's power. The kind no one can take from you. Because once you master your emotions, no one can weaponize them. No one can destabilize you. You become grounded, clear, and precise. You stop being the person who gets emotionally hijacked by every disappointment, and you become the person who looks at chaos and simply says, I see it, I understand it, but it won't move me. That's emotional intelligence. That's armor, not steel, that blocks you from the world, but strength that allows you to move through it untouched. At some point in your life, you have to stop waiting for someone to save you. You have to stop expecting others to validate you, to comfort you, to reassure you that you're enough. Because the truth is, no one is coming. People can stand beside you. They can support you. They can love you. But they can't be your foundation. That job is yours. Building inner strength means becoming your own safe place. The person you can count on when everything and everyone else falls apart. Most people live their lives outsourcing stability. They attach their sense of worth to external things, a partner, a friend, a job, approval from others. And when those things shift, as they inevitably do, their whole world collapses. They lose their sense of identity because it was never rooted in themselves. It was borrowed. But real strength, unshakable strength, comes from being able to stand alone. It comes from knowing that even if the world goes silent, you will still hear your own voice telling you to get back up. Being your own safe place doesn't mean you never feel lonely or afraid. It means you've developed the emotional maturity to face those feelings without needing someone else to fix them for you. You've built a level of self-trust that says, I can handle this. You know your own patterns, your weaknesses, and your limits. And you work on them. You stop waiting for ideal conditions to start healing. You stop seeking temporary distractions to escape discomfort. Instead, you learn to sit with yourself, to process, to rebuild. It's a hard truth to accept, but not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will support your growth. Sometimes the very people you expected to cheer for you will resent your progress because it threatens their comfort zone. You can't depend on others to give you permission to evolve. If you want to build inner strength, you have to let go of the idea that validation equals love. It doesn't. Sometimes validation is control disguised as care. Real love gives you room to grow. Dependency chains you down. The process of becoming your own safe place often begins in silence. It's in the quiet moments, when you're sitting alone, when the phone isn't ringing, when no one is checking in, that you face your real self. That's when you meet the parts of you that feel unworthy, insecure, scared. Most people run from that encounter because it's uncomfortable. But if you avoid it, you never grow. Strength is built in those private battles, in the moments you choose not to collapse when no one is watching. Inner strength is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's the quiet calm in your chest. When someone tries to provoke you and you choose peace, it's the discipline to keep moving forward when motivation fades. It's the grace to forgive yourself without excusing your mistakes. It's resilience without ego, the ability to bend but not break. The most powerful people are not those who never fall. They're the ones who learn how to get up without waiting for applause. To be your own safe place, you have to start trusting yourself again. So many people lose that trust because they've been betrayed, rejected, or abandoned. They start doubting their instincts. They question their judgment. But the truth is, your intuition was never wrong. Your hope was you wanted to believe people's potential more than you saw their patterns. Building inner strength means forgiving yourself for that. It means saying, I didn't know better then, but I do now. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every setback, a recalibration. You learn to rely on your own discernment again. One of the hardest parts of becoming strong inside is learning the art of emotional independence. That doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you stop making other people responsible for your happiness. You stop expecting them to fill the voids you refuse to confront. Happiness built on others is fragile. It shatters the moment they change, leave, or disappoint you. But happiness built on self-understanding, purpose, and gratitude, that's untouchable. That's what allows you to be grounded no matter what life throws your way. Inner strength also requires discipline. You can't build confidence if you're always running from discomfort. You have to do the hard things, wake up early, take care of your health, pursue goals even when no one believes in you. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the message that you can be trusted. That's how self-respect grows, not through affirmations but through action. When you say you'll do something and actually follow through, your subconscious learns to rely on you. You stop needing others to believe in you because you finally do. You will also have to learn boundaries, not as walls to keep people out, but as structures that protect your peace. Boundaries say, I can care about you without sacrificing myself. When you don't have them, you end up overextending, overgiving, and burning out. You become resentful because you're giving from emptiness. But when you know your limits, when you're clear about what you will and won't allow, you create emotional safety within yourself. You become the calm in your own storm. The journey of building inner strength will be uncomfortable. Growth always is. You'll outgrow people who prefer the weaker version of you. You'll face days when your confidence wavers, when old doubts resurface. But the difference now is that you won't fall apart. You'll recognize the moment for what it is, a test. You'll talk yourself through it instead of waiting for someone else to reassure you. You'll anchor yourself through self-awareness and self-respect. You can't control who stays or who leaves. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how much of your power you give away. Every time you center your peace around someone else's actions, you hand them control of your emotional world. Reclaim it. Take responsibility for your own healing. You don't need closure from others. You can give it to yourself. You don't need constant reassurance. You can remind yourself of your worth daily. That's not arrogance. That's emotional sovereignty. When you become your own safe place, you stop chasing what was never meant to stay. You stop begging for love that costs you your dignity. You stop settling for relationships, jobs, and environments that drain you. Instead, you build an inner world so strong that nothing external can shake it. You become your own home, steady, grounded, whole. And here's the beauty of it. Once you reach that place, you don't become harder, you become softer, but from strength, not weakness. You can give freely because you're not afraid of losing yourself in the process. You can love deeply because you know how to heal if it ends. You can stand alone, not because you reject people, but because you finally realized you are enough on your own. Being your own safe place doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It means you don't depend on anyone for your sense of peace. You choose people from strength, not desperation. You share your world, but you no longer hand it over. That's the foundation of unshakable confidence. That's what allows you to walk into any room, any challenge, any heartbreak, and still say with certainty, I'm good. I've got me. That's not arrogance. That's power, quiet, grounded, and untouchable. Trust is sacred. It's one of the most valuable currencies you have. And yet, most people spend it recklessly. They hand it out like loose change, giving pieces of it to anyone who smiles, listens, or shows a moment of kindness. Then they're shocked when that trust is broken. But here's the truth. Trust is not something you give because someone asks for it. Trust is something that's earned through time, consistency, and integrity. You don't give trust away. You choose it carefully, deliberately, and consciously. People often confuse openness with trust. They think being authentic means being transparent with everyone. But vulnerability without discernment isn't authenticity. It's exposure. You don't owe your story, your secrets, or your emotions to everyone who seems nice. Not everyone who listens deserves to know you deeply. Some people listen to understand, but others listen to collect information. And that information becomes ammunition when things go wrong. The moment you realize that, you start protecting your peace with intention. Choosing trust is an act of power. It means you evaluate someone's character before handing them emotional access. You watch what they do, not just what they say. Because talk is cheap, and in this world, it's the easiest currency to counterfeit. People can mimic empathy. They can mirror your pain. They can act loyal when it benefits them. But character reveals itself when there's nothing left to gain. Watch how someone treats you when you can't offer them anything. Watch how they speak about you when you're not in the room. That's when truth walks in. Trust takes time. It's built through small, consistent actions that prove reliability. But the problem is we live in a culture that rushes connection. We crave instant intimacy, instant loyalty, instant belonging. We meet someone and immediately want to believe they're genuine. We ignore red flags because we're desperate for connection. But trust that's rushed is trust that's misplaced. True connection is not built in moments. It's revealed over time. You don't really know someone until you've seen how they handle pressure, distance, disappointment, and temptation. It's easy to trust when things are good. It's when things get uncomfortable that people show who they truly are. Pay attention in those moments. When conflict arises, do they communicate or do they attack? When you set a boundary, do they respect it or guilt you? When you shine, do they celebrate you or grow silent? These moments tell you everything you need to know. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't ignore them. They collect that data, not to judge, but to decide how close to stand. Choosing trust also means taking responsibility for your own judgment. You can't keep blaming others for betraying you if you keep ignoring your own intuition. Your gut always gives you signals, that subtle discomfort, that slight hesitation, that whisper that something feels off. But too often you silence it because you want to see the best in people. You call it being open-minded, but really it's being afraid to confront reality. Trusting others begins with trusting yourself. Trusting your instincts, your perception, your capacity to walk away when something doesn't feel right. There's a quiet strength in being selective with your trust. People may call you guarded, cold, or distant. Let them. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're disciplined. You've learned that emotional access is a privilege, not a right. You've learned that loyalty can't be proven through words, but through time and pressure. You've learned that not everyone deserves to know your heart, because some people only want to see how it beats so they can learn how to stop it. When you choose trust, you move with confidence instead of fear. You no longer overthink who's real or fake because you've built a system, a filter. You observe, you wait, and you decide. You don't give people the benefit of the doubt. You let them earn it. That doesn't mean you live paranoid or cynical. It means you live aware. You allow people to show you who they are instead of assuming who they'll be. You give them space to prove their intentions through their behavior, not their promises. This is how you protect your peace without isolating yourself. You can still love deeply. You can still connect, but you do it consciously. You give pieces of yourself gradually, not impulsively. You share your truth in stages, not all at once. You let trust build like a foundation, brick by brick. That's what makes relationships strong. Not how fast they form, but how truthfully they endure. And here's something many people overlook. Trust is reciprocal. You teach people how to trust you by how you handle trust. Do you keep their secrets? Do you show up when it's inconvenient? Do you speak with integrity even when it costs you something? Because the kind of trust you attract is often a reflection of the kind you give. If you want people of character in your life, start by living as one. But never forget this. You can trust and still protect yourself. You can love and still keep boundaries. You can believe in someone and still verify their actions. That balance is what keeps you strong. Blind trust is dependency. Selective trust is wisdom. The difference between the two is awareness. Awareness of human nature, awareness of your own value, awareness of what safety feels like. There will be moments when someone breaks your trust, and it will hurt. You'll feel betrayed, foolish, angry at yourself for not seeing it coming. But don't let that turn you bitter. Let it turn you sharper. Every betrayal is a lesson in discernment. It teaches you what signs you missed, what intuition you ignored, what access you gave too soon. You don't lose by trusting. You lose by refusing to learn from misplaced trust. Growth is painful, but it's also liberating. Because once you learn, you'll never fall the same way again. When you finally master this, something powerful happens. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop fearing betrayal. You know that if someone breaks your trust, it's not the end of you, it's just the end of their chapter in your life. You can move forward without bitterness, because you've built your strength, your peace, and your identity from within. You've become someone who knows that real trust is rare, but that's what makes it valuable. So choose trust, but choose it wisely. Don't give it because someone asks. Give it because someone earns it. Don't let guilt or loneliness rush your discernment. Time reveals what words conceal. Watch, listen, and believe what you see, because when you protect your trust, you protect your energy. And when you protect your energy, you protect your life. At the end of the day, your goal isn't to build walls, it's to build gates. Gates that open for the right people and close for the wrong ones. That's how you live powerfully, peacefully, and intelligently. Because when you learn to choose trust instead of giving it away, you stop being someone who gets hurt easily, and you start becoming someone who can love, connect, and give freely without ever losing yourself again. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one truth. The world will not always be kind, and people will not always be loyal. But you can still rise, you can still win, and you can still walk through the fire without losing yourself. Because strength isn't about shutting down your heart, it's about training it. It's about becoming so grounded in who you are that no betrayal, no disappointment, no rejection can shake your core. You've learned that not everyone who smiles is your friend, that human nature runs on motives, that emotions can be both your power and your downfall. You've learned that real safety doesn't come from others, it comes from within. And you've learned that trust isn't something you hand out, it's something you earn, both from others and from yourself. So stop waiting for people to prove your worth. Stop expecting loyalty from those who've never understood the meaning of it. You don't owe anyone access to your peace, your energy, or your heart. Be kind, but not blind. Be open, but not exposed. Be loving, but never desperate. Because once you know how to stand alone, no one can ever use loneliness against you. The world respects strength. Not the kind that yells, not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that stands tall in silence, the kind that doesn't break when everything else does. Be that strength. Walk with calm confidence. Carry your awareness like armor and your wisdom like a weapon. Smile but stay observant. Connect but stay conscious. And remember this. You don't have to harden to survive. You just have to see clearly. You don't have to mistrust everyone. You just have to choose wisely. Because awareness isn't fear. It's freedom. It's the freedom to love without being naive, to give without being used, to trust without being blind. So go forward and live from strength, not scarcity. Move with purpose, not paranoia. Keep your circle small, your standards high, and your boundaries unshakable. The world will test you, but it can't take what's rooted inside you. You are your own safe place. You are your own power source. You are the weapon and the shield. And when the noise fades, when the world quiets down, and you stand there alone, you'll realize something profound. You were never really alone at all. You had yourself the whole time. And that was always enough.